it's like a shell game, you know, they missed the point, you know. The real horror had happened earlier, because when I started in Hollywood, it was like 84. You know, there was no video basically. It was a video thing that started to happen with the DVD in the future, as a future item, as a future instrument. They didn't know about DVDs. Anyway, they made a lousy deal on video. The Writers Guild made a very bad deal with the studio, with the executives, and it became ultimately video and Laserdisc. DVDs became a giant nest egg over the next 20 years, much to everyone's shock, surprise, and it outdid movies. All of a sudden, movie theaters were roughly 25% of the whole, and DVDs and videos were 75% of the deal. But the studios had negotiated with the Writers Guild in a very tough fashion, and as far as I know, had declared that the DVD thing was was not in the pot. So when I got successful in this business, the definition of a pot changed. I mean, the pot meant you worked on a film, you got a profit. The profit was based at it was one pot. Everybody put everything back into the pot. Well, all of a sudden the studios would say, hey, we don't want to put everything, we're not going to put all the video revenue back in the pot. We're only going to put 25% of it back in the pot. We keep the other 75% for enhanced costs and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I got used to more or less this Hollywood accounting business, which is unbelievable the way the game is played. It's like, you know, when we call it a business, they call it entertainment. When we call it entertainment, they call it business, you know. It doesn't end. It's a cat and mouse game. For 20 years, the studios got progressively uglier. Progressively fatter, progressively greedier at a level that we never could have seen coming possible in 1984, 5, 6. Ever. We never thought that Rupert Murdoch could actually take over the world. You had executives boasting about making $250 million a year, and writers in the street were struggling to make, you know, $20,000, $15,000. You're just a number. You're interchangeable. That attitude has grown across the business world as the corporations got bigger and uglier and greedier in the 1990s, and the media played into it by giving them the covers of all the papers and magazines and talking about how much money a movie made and how much take-home pay some executive had and which executive was more powerful than that executive. And it created this whole executive class. We all fought, writers and directors together and actors, to keep the costs tight. That was always the intention. That the way I learned movies was to keep production at a certain number. And you work like a dog to save $1 million, $2 million. And all of a sudden the game changed, because we made the film, and then there was a pot, and everything was put in the pot, and we all shared in any profit above that. Now, over the last 20 years, this thing became much more complex, and all of a sudden the studio said, well, look, the film may cost that for you, but it costs that for us, because we're spending P&A, prints and ads, they called it in those days, which is really advertising. We're spending that much more in advertising. So all of a sudden, you make this kind of movie, but no, it costs that. So that's your pot. Your pot starts there. All of a sudden, you're down here. You made this. But they're saying that's the pot. So you have to absorb all of these huge costs. They will add $5 million to a P&A budget without even asking you, or $10 million or $20 million to a P&A budget. They do what they want. And we're fighting today over this fucking problem, which is at the base of it, I think. Writer, director, actor, we stick together. We stay for the profit picture. We want profit. We want to believe we have a chance on the back end of this movie. Often we take nothing up front in order to make our dream come true. We're willing to go to any end to sacrifice that. I've never seen good writers who always worked extra hours, months of their lives, often for nothing. Writers are the greatest, are coal miners, they're sacrificers. And they pay deeply, and they're emotionally scarred for life. You write a few scripts in your life, you put all your heart into it, and then some corporation just throws it on the dung heap, or even worse, options it and never makes it, and then you never get it back because all of a sudden you don't have any rights. It's not just one little thing, it's the rights of human beings against the corporation. It's the rights of a human being against the government. And these are being taken from us, literally, on all levels of existence, not just in the movie business, in life, in politics, in the way we respond to the state, the fear. And unions, alas, are like one of the, historically have been jeopardized for years. It starts with going back to the 60s, even the 80s. They keep breaking into the unions, and the unions are an old-fashioned response to corporate greed. But it's still corporate greed, and it's gotten worse. And I know I wrote a movie, co-wrote a movie called Greed is Good, well, actually Wall Street, but it isn't good. Greed sucks. But the truth is, we can win because at the end of the day, media is changing, and they cannot control the costs. They cannot control the distribution, the eye of the population anymore. They can't do it on television. They're losing out to internet. They're losing out to all kinds of cable. And the film is the same thing. They can't control them. Historically, change requires action.